Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. The JAMODI podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. So individual skill development, I think so many people say they believe in it, say they do it, but then if you really look over your practice time, is it 20%? Is it 50? So how does individual skill development work into your daily practice?
Well, when I was playing at TCU as a walk-on a long time ago,
When were you there?
I was from 02 to 06.
All right. So we had a little crossover time there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved as a player how we would go bigs and littles for the first 30 minutes every single day. And it would just be skill, skill, skill. And as I've gotten to become a high school coach, I've kind of organized our practices that same way. Now, it won't necessarily be bigs and littles every day, but now we will split up where we take all of our JV bigs, varsity bigs are all together with the coach. And then we have all of our guards doing, ball handling or shooting or whatever it may be. But we could also have, with just the varsity, just the JV, but it's always a skill based where we're shooting, passing, dribbling, those kind of things every single day for the first, at least the first 30 minutes.
Is that increase at all throughout the season? Does it decrease, or do you feel like you try to keep it steady throughout?
I'd like to be pretty consistent with it. Again, as I've gotten older and I've gotten more experience, I used to be that guy that said, "Man, we got to practice for 3 hours. We got, you don't need to do that."
Yeah.
It's more important to keep your guys fresh and not burned out in January and February. So we'll do schoolwork every day. And then if we take anything away, it'll be the live stuff.
Yeah. Coach K said, he really sold me on it. Anything he says, I think is gold. Anyway, like you should be listening. Should be listening. But he said that, come January or conference time, it's all 5-on-0. And what he meant by that, like they're not going against each other hard at all. Because at the end of the day, those reps and rebounding drills or anything like that in practice at that time of year, is it worth a player potentially not being able to be on the floor in the game? And I would argue it's not.
Yeah. Like, there's a time and place for a charge drill, but man, I don't like to practice charge drills because the last thing you need is your best player taking a charge and drill, falling on his wrist, and he's out for a month. You know what I mean? You can talk about taking the charges and why it's important, and they got to understand
Celebrate it when it does happen.
Absolutely.
So players can repeat that. Yeah.
But we're not going to sit here and just knock each other, in November and December with district rolling around. So
Coach, what is it about being young? I think it's because when we were young, we still felt like we were invincible. And so if what we were asking our players to do just made sense. But yeah, you're right on the money. Like I used to be the guy that would have 3 lines with sometimes I'd put the cheerleading mat down, but 3 lines and just have somebody knock him, slide over, knock him, slide over. That doesn't translate to more charges in practice, but all it does is it possibly, concusses a player or does something. So yeah, I'm right with you there.
And we have, it's tough because our expectation is in a game you take a charge. But again, it goes back to the culture piece. They know that, they understand it. So I don't think we got to get better at it. There's no doubt. There's no doubt we got to get better at it. But to sit there and just, like you said, just beat guys down with the ball, I don't know how productive that really is.
Yeah.
The risk reward to me isn't worth it.
It's not. And I'll tell you, I really try not to ever, ask people or tell people, hey, go listen to this episode. But the episode with Chris Oliver from Basketball Immersion, like if you haven't listened to it or coaches haven't, a lot of these guys that are kind of outside of, coaching a team, they have some really interesting ideas that make you think about what we're doing why we're doing it, and does it actually lead to winning?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, he was like, diving on the floor for loose balls, taking charges, in the grand scheme of a game, how many times does it really happen? You know, what does lead to winning, which ultimately is making more shots, keeping the other team from taking high percentage shots, those four factors, right? So like in practice, when we're doing I'm going back in time, the VCU drill, where I have a guy take a charge, they dive on the loose ball, knock it back in, and then they save it. And we all come together. Yeah. But then there's my big that just sprained his wrist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did that lead to winning?
Yeah.
I don't know. So like, I'm not at all against those things, but listening to those guys, man, it makes you think.
Mm-hmm. And to me, one of the worst things, and again, as you get older, it's funny, you get older, you kind of you realize it. A lot of times, that's what's always been done. That's what
Same with fall league.
When I was a kid, that's what we did. But to me, like there's some things I'm like, man, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Is this going to help us with basketball games? If it's not, then what are we doing? So yeah, again, it goes back again to the culture. If they understand it, if that's the expectation, you don't need to practice it. They know.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.